it's something that I think you get into when you talk about aging well. It's kind of like, well, what does your lifestyle look like? And is it conducive for you being active? Is it conducive for you being able to, age out in your home? Would you want to age in place? And a lot of times that means that, okay, so this isn't our forever home. And that's where I work closely with my realtors.
Welcome to the Carolina Senior Talk Podcast, your trusted source for all things related to senior living in the Carolinas. In each episode, we'll guide you through the best locations, offer advice on buying a home, and share tips on relocating within this beautiful region. Whether you're exploring new senior communities, considering a move, or looking to invest in your current dream home, we've got you covered. So sit back, relax, and get ready to discover everything you need to know about senior living in the Carolinas. Well, hello there. Welcome to Carolina Senior Talk. This is episode number 4. I'm your host, Dave Edwards with Welcome Home Properties, and we have a special guest here today, Alex Parish. Alex is with Zenful Aging, which is a very unique service business. She is very professional at this. But before we dig down into that, we want to know a little bit more about her. So, Alex, tell us a little bit about, before we get into Zenful Aging, where are you from originally?
Born and raised in Georgia, and I lived there for 25 years. And so I met my husband, who was in the military, Marine Corps, and moved every 3 years for quite some time.
Awesome, awesome. Tell me you're not a Falcons fan. Just tell us that. Okay,
Hate
don't
to
don't.
say it. Stayed with my home
It's
team,
okay. It's okay.
still faithful to my home team, but yeah, we're big Falcons fans.
Where do you live today?
We are on the other side of Lake Norman. I live in Denver. Well, I lived in Denver. I gotta correct that. And we just recently moved to Lincolnton. So we moved just 6 miles away from where we were living to be closer to North Lincoln High School, where my son plays football.
Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you're not accustomed to the towns in North Carolina, as I was in 1995 when I moved here from Maryland, okay, when I found out at 8:30 morning that somebody had just come in from Denver, I was like surprised that they could get a flight in that early. Come to find out that we actually have a Denver, North Carolina. We also have a Dallas, North Carolina as well. So, uh, hey, that's the way it is. So,
Yeah.
welcome to North Carolina.
Yeah.
What makes you tick? What are your personal interests?
Well, as I said, my son goes to North Lincoln High School, so we're kind of very preoccupied right now with high school football, which I really enjoy. We love to travel. All 4 of my children are here close to North Carolina, so we spend a lot of time with family and friends. And between work and travel and children, that keeps me pretty busy.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so you've lived here a while. For those who are not familiar with the area, or even if they are familiar with the area, what are one or two of your favorite restaurants?
We just got a cheesecake factory there in Burkdale, and my husband likes that because the menu's big, so we can meet the kids there and eat, and everybody can find something. But if it's just the 2 of us, we kind of love going to the Palm in Charlotte near South Park. And that's a treat. It's not something we do often, but it's never disappointed.
That is a treat for sure. All right, so you're very successful at your business. So what are your keys to success?
If I could wrap that up, maybe in a word, it would be tenacious.
Yeah.
My mom, that probably drove her crazy as a child. I was very tenacious, but I actually, that word came up again when I did some business coaching, and tenacity is something that I think has helped me in business because I don't give up until I find not only a solution to the problem, but I want everybody who's involved to be happy with the end result.
And you have to overcome a couple obstacles in the path. Yeah,
Oh,
that's for
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
All right, now we have a test for you. I know that how much you
Oh
love
boy.
tests. So
Okay.
we're going to ask you a couple questions and you have your choice. You can have it by
Okay.
decade or you can have it by category. What is your preference, ma'am?
Let's do category.
Category. And pop culture, TV, music, movies, cars, news, or sports.
Movies for
All
sure.
right. You're
Movies.
a movie person. All right. All
Yeah.
right. So let's see. Movies, page 57 as we go to that. All right, here we go. Drum roll. Oh, I'm in music. How did that happen? 85. Oh, you would have gotten that first one though for the music. All right, off we go. All right. Who played archaeologist Indiana Jones in 1981's film Raiders of the Lost Ark? A.
Harrison Ford.
Michael Douglas. No, I haven't gotten there yet. B. Harrison Ford. Okay, fine. Ding, ding, ding. You win. Could have been Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
All right, all right. Let's do another one. Um. Oh, here's a good one. This was a good movie. Who starred alongside John Travolta in the movie Grease in 1978?
Olivia Newton-John.
Gosh, that's D. Answer D. Ding, ding, ding. You get those right.
Sorry.
You do know movies well. All right, fine. You pass. Forward we move. Let's go. Let's dig a little bit deeper on your business, Zenful Aging.
Okay.
In a nutshell, what is Zenful Aging?
So Zenful Aging is a company business that I founded and started in 2019, which was not the best year to really start a business, but it's all things aging and how to age well. So my 12 years of experience in the senior industry was working in communities and helping people transition from home into senior care. Zenful Aging has become a little bit in the last year, it's kind of morphed into more of helping people age well so that I can be more of a 411 resource instead of a 911 emergency. I did that for the first part of my career, and it was really dealing with the people that, oh my gosh, my mom's in the hospital. She's getting discharged to come, home and she can't take care of herself. What do I do?
Mhm.
So it's usually in the crisis piece of it. When you run in that mode for so long, I'm like, there's got to be a better way to do this. So having conversations with people like myself who just turned 56 years old, who's starting to have aches and pains and, doesn't enjoy yard work like I used to, what instead of like, what does that look like right now? Let's look a little bit further down the road. And what does that look like in 10 years from now, or even 20 years from now? If you're maybe not in your forever home, are you in your forever community? So it's really looking and helping people start having that conversation about the longer term plan and having it earlier than before it's needed.
Who are you typically talking to when you have these conversations, and who engages you?
Well, I usually the adult children call me about their parents or loved ones.
Mhm.
And that's where this has kind of changed over 2024 is that when I help them get their parents settled, then they want to know how can I better take care of myself and be planned,
Oh,
planned for
interesting.
this. So
Interesting.
I have a lot of holistic practitioners and people that do certain type of physical therapy, and it's a way for us to age well by taking better care of ourselves now, so we're not in that crisis mode of what they're having to deal with their parents.
Mm. Now, as a realtor, I represent the seller of that home or the buyer of a home. It's very clear who we represent.
Right.
When you're engaged, who do you represent? Who do
So
you
I
typically
am an
represent?
advocate for the senior more than likely. It's
Right.
the senior that even the adult child that calls after working in the community and having the relationship with so many of the residents, the senior being able to age with dignity and grace is really where my heart is. And
Mhm.
so sometimes it's educating the adult child on all the resources that are available to help do that. And then finding something that is cohesive for the whole unit, being the adult child and the senior.
Now, we didn't cover this up front, but your background is you have a degree in psychology,
That's correct.
and then you were a realtor for a while,
Yes.
which is like real practice psychology
Yeah,
sometimes.
well, it's kind of interesting because you would think, I thought I was going to sit in an office and help change the world by making people happy in psychology. And then I got into real estate right out
Yeah.
of college, which is
Yeah.
weird. But I will tell you, I certainly use that degree and have all the way through to today. But yeah, it was definitely something that has come in handy. But my passion has always been in helping people.
So what was the connection between uh, real estate and where you are today?
So I did real estate in Georgia, and as I said, when I got married and moved, we were moving every 3 years, and it's
Mm,
very difficult to establish yourself in a community that you're unfamiliar with, but also with realtors that are from that area.
mm,
So our last duty station in Virginia, I was having kids kind of before this happened in Virginia, but once we were in Virginia, I knew that was my husband's last duty station, and kind of what am I going to do now? So I started working and doing seminars on VA aid and attendance and helping military families uh, with understanding all the resources that they had available that a lot of people don't know about, which helps pay for home health and also pay for being in a community. And at one of those seminars, which was in a assisted living community, the executive director asked me if I was interested in a position, which I didn't even think about doing. But she said, if you have a real estate background, you're great with seniors, you'd be a perfect fit.
mm.
So I got that job and decided then and there that that was going to be what I did for the rest of my career because I really enjoyed it.
Well, you have almost a perfect background for the line of work that you were in. I think you
Yeah.
found the ideal role in life. Um, one of the things that we do as we start to get older, aches and pains, and sometimes things fall off, and just life happens, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately, but we're all inevitably headed towards the same direction, and health is a primary concern for most people. But how do you know what to do, what to plan for when you don't know exactly what's coming at you? It's not tangible, it's gradual for most of us, a gradual
Right.
process. Sometimes it's not for many people. It comes at us suddenly.
Sure.
So, what do you say as to why you plan when you don't know where you're headed?
Well, it's interesting because there's not a cure for aging, right?
Right.
It's something we're all going to do. And so my whole philosophy of wanting to age well, you have to have a conversation about, like I said, trying to look down the road instead of today at the here and now. So getting people engaged in having conversations about, difficult conversations about taking better care of themselves. And a lot of times that's just putting the holistic people that I work with in the community that are very innovative with resources. I started having some hip pain, for instance, and it got so unbearable that I couldn't sit, I couldn't lay down. I was having difficulty, I couldn't exercise anymore. So I went to the doctor and the first thing they wanted to do was hip surgery. And I'm like, I'm too young for hip surgery. So I found a myofascial physical therapist that I started going to, and within 4 months, my pain was gone. And that was over a year and a half ago, and I still have no pain. So I was able to avoid surgery, which I felt like got me back actively engaged
Hmm.
in the things that I wanted to do, which will help me age well. So it's having conversations when people start having those little hiccups and start seeing things that we have to adjust to when we're in our 50s. And it's the downsizing piece of it and making life a little bit simpler so that we can be more active. So when I said that we moved just recently, I had to downsize from a 5 bedroom to a 4 bedroom or to a 3 bedroom house. And it is very freeing when you do that. I have time to play golf. I have time to, see more time with my children, go to the movies, which I love to do, and travel. So it is extremely freeing when you do it, but we wait, at least the generation I was working with in the community, they wait until the 11th hour because what they do is they want to say that I stayed in my home, I stayed in my home, I stayed in my home. And then when they come into a community, it's really before they have the advantage, which could have prolonged their life if they would have done it sooner.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You are preaching to the wrong choir here in many respects, because my wife and I recently bought a home 3 years ago,
Yeah.
at the start of COVID, and so we were motivated to buy a home that was suitable for what was going on in our lives, which we were getting older, but we had just lived the experience of taking care of parents
Oh.
and seeing what
Mm.
they went through, and so we said, now's the time to plan for this. So on one hand, we were planning in that we started looking for a ranch, 1 story or a 1.5 story or something to that effect. Could not find what we wanted, so we ended up changing the paradigm and getting a 2 story with all the primary living on the first floor, right? Love the home, been in it, and we ended up picking up additional square footage, additional bedrooms, bonus
Oh,
room, and
boy.
an office, which I'm sitting in now. So we didn't exactly downsize per se,
Okay.
but the living was made easier, and ultimately we will be able to have very competitive wheelchair races on the main level, But
Oh,
so in that
boy.
sense, it's suitable. Did we downsize? No. Did
Yeah,
we reduce the amount of maintenance and overhead and responsibilities? In some respects, yes. The house is basically maintenance
oh,
free.
that's awesome.
That's the good news. The bad news is landscaping is I'm
Oh,
constantly
gosh.
weeding, right? But that's
Yeah,
life, and then, okay,
yeah,
I enjoy doing that, honestly. But downsizing is not always it's right sizing, what is the
right,
appropriate thing, or maybe even staying in the home that you're in.
right.
That's real life. But, on one hand, we planned. Maybe we didn't plan as smartly as we could have. But when should planning begin?
Well, I think the easy answer is before you need it. And
Right.
that's the challenge in my job is to people don't want to think about that. They don't want to think about the possibility that they might need assistance walking. And if they, had to do that in their home, could they?
Yeah.
How would they shower? How would they move around? So it's something that I think you get into when you talk about aging well. It's kind of like, well, what does your lifestyle look like? And is it conducive for you being active? Is it conducive for you being able to, age out in your home? Would you want to age in place? And a lot of times that means that, okay, so this isn't our forever home. And that's where I work closely with my realtors is when people usually have that conversation like, hey, we're thinking about selling. And then they say, but what would be an active adult community? And that's where my realtors will usually come in and I work and we partner together because that's where I could be a great resource on all the different options that are available. Because if people know that they could move into a 55 plus community that has a clubhouse, that has a lot of social activities, as opposed to just being able to stay in the home that they thought they would forever be in. That's organically where if there's an ideal place, that's the time is when they reach out. And usually the realtor is the first person that they call because they're like, what does the market look like? What
Sure.
can we do with our house? So that's going to be their first contact. So I do a lot of education with the seniors is don't try and wear all the hats and let's partner together and I can come in and be a resource for finding out what all those aging well pieces are. And then you get to do your job at selling the house or buying, a new house. And then I do the pieces that are in the middle.
Yeah, I'm called in frequently. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing today, honestly, is because often the question is, I need to move. And why do you
Right.
need to move? What's your end game? What's your goal?
Right.
But more importantly is how do I tap into the equity that I have in my existing home?
Mhm.
And that's where my expertise comes in. But I want to get back to you on in that respect because you bring expertise, you bring value. You're on one hand, you're an advocate. On the other hand, you're also a neutral party, but you also bring the experience and bring all those together. So I see the value. There was one story that you shared with me, and I think this goes to the point that you wear multiple hats. And taking advantage of your psychology degree, you talked about the story of the three sisters. Can you drill down on that one?
Yeah, I have very memorable clients over my career, but that was a unique challenge because I had a family that had moved their mom into my community and before working up to what we were going to do, whether stay in the house or transfer to me, there were two sisters that had provided the primary care over the last 2 years. The third sister, who happened to be in charge of all the medical decisions and financial decisions, lived out of town. So she came in to kind of help with what are we going to do about mom. And she did not agree with the two people, the two other sisters that had been providing the care. Well, after doing a lot of conversations and a lot of one-on-one, it came to my attention that she did not have closure with her mom. And unfortunately, her mom had gotten into a nonverbal, no longer able to really communicate, um, part of her health. And the daughter was basically realizing that it was too late and she was not going to have closure with her mom. So her decision that she was making about her mom's care was more emotional than it was really about what was mom. And that's where it comes in, where I'm an advocate for the senior. And what was best for her mom was for have her come into the community. And after really working through those pieces with the daughter, and coming to peace with her sisters that she just was not going to get that closure at this point in time, but they came together, and it was beautiful. It was something that I was unique, that I can't say that I've ever experienced that before that, and I haven't since, but to really be able to use all the pieces and resources and what I feel like I'm good at, we navigated that and we found a solution, and they had great, all of them were very happy at the end.
So your psychology degree and your tenacity paid dividends, right?
Came together.
Came together. Because it's such an emotional experience for many people, because it's often perceived as maybe going down a less than happy conversation.
Mhm.
How do you start the conversation? If you're listening to this and you have parents, or if you are the parents and you want to have a conversation with your kids, how does one start the conversation about planning for the inevitable?
Well, it's easy questions to start with, like, if you're talking, let's say you're the parents and you're talking to your child, and it's like, do you guys plan on staying in the area? What do you see as far as when your kids are grown? Where would you like to go?
Mm,
And then if it's the adult children talking to their parents, it's like, mom and dad, y'all been in this house. Do you really plan on staying in this house? Um, because it wouldn't be, I mean, aren't you tired of the yard work, and you've got 14 rooms in your house and you live in six? I mean, we're not coming to your house anymore for Christmas. We're coming here because the kids are here. And so it's easy conversations at first. The more difficult ones are to have if you start seeing actual cognitive decline or physical decline in a loved one, and you have to be a little bit more aggressive because you find that they're not safe.
mhm,
That's a more difficult. So my goal is to educate and provide resources so that people can have those conversations sooner. And
mhm.
it's more like, what do y'all want to do in retirement? Do you plan on joining a club and playing golf? Do you want to travel? If that's the case, then find a house that is conducive to that, so you can simplify that piece of it and have more time for us and the grandkids are traveling to us, doing things that are enjoyable, which do help you to age well because you're more physically active, you're doing things that provide emotional, enjoyment. So that's the time that I would say as sooner than later, because yeah, we're all challenged with not knowing what the day brings. And I've had two people in the last year that were in their 50s that had a health crisis that totally changed their whole lifestyle.
Mhm.
And that was an emergency situation. So I feel like in our 50s is the ideal time, as we start having, like I said, the pain in the hip, or when we start having those little things, is like, what do I want? How can I free myself to really age well, stay active, engaged, and social?
My son just had hip surgery. He's 42. Maybe he needs to have these conversations. I'm gonna push
Yeah.
his button on that one.
Yep.
Oh my gosh. Um, all right. So you go in, you have an active conversation that somebody's called you a son or a daughter, family member, or maybe a parent. And so now you're engaged with the family members, developing a plan, goals, needs. But what does the plan actually look like? Is it a written document, and does it include the financial side of that as well?
So on my website, I have three different plans that you can choose from. And it's basically where I do it for you, we do it together, or you do it yourself.
Mm,
And it starts with a free consultation, number one, to see if I can help you. And then from there, I will, in my first plan, it's basically broken down by hours. And if it's something where you just want to know what the resources are in the area so you can basically explore that on your own, it
Mm.
is a written plan. And if it's home health that you need, or if it's home health and maybe senior resources like modifying a home, things like that that they would need, I do write out a plan at the end of doing my research. And on the second plan, if it's something more where I'm writing out the plan for you, giving three choices for each, whatever it is that you need, then I can do a tour, we can tour together and we work together on that. And then the last plan is more where, yes, again, it's a written plan, but I execute every piece of that. So I'm pulling in those resources in the community. That would be my realtors to sell the home, the downsizers, if it's, stuff that needs to be fixed in the home, anything that I would need to do in order to move that loved one into a community.
Alex, I'd love to have you come out and meet with myself and my kids, but I guess I'm just curious, how do I pay you? Do you accept Venmo? How do you get paid?
I do accept Venmo. I get paid directly from my clients, and I was very intentional about that as far as starting my business, because I do work with larger companies that get paid on a referral basis by,
Mm.
let's say, the communities that they refer to. And there's really nothing wrong with that model. I had an experience when I worked in the community with some companies that would not refer people if they didn't get paid a referral from that company. So I felt like by being a true advocate for my client and then paying me directly was a better business model for me.
So I know that downsizing is going to require a moving company. Maybe I've got to pack up, but I'm not sure I want to move. Maybe I want to just stay in my house. What resources can you bring to the table? Are you comfortable with working? Um, who do you work with to help me in those situations?
So again, that's kind of the piece about the Zenful aging, is being able to come and have one resource for all of your aging needs. So if it is that you want to age in place, a lot of times there's modifications you can do your home that would help you be able to, whether it's replacing a tub with a walk-in shower,
Mm.
or bars that would provide safety. Even sometimes I have to modify garages because people need to get into the house, and putting some bars or some rails in to get in there safely. So in the community, there's so many different uh, partners that I have that specialize in aging, whether it's the holistic healers that I work with, or whether it's people that can modify the house, if it's maintenance that needs to be done to the home, and certainly my realtors. And then my community affiliates. I feel like all of those people are fantastic resources. And instead of you having to look for each one individually, what I provide is that one place that you can go to find out what is available.
Mm. What areas do you cover? What's your territory look like? Do you go as far to the mountains, or do you go to Salisbury on the northeast side, or?
Well, I have a relationship with a lot of national companies that if it's that I need help in a place that's outside of the Charlotte area, physically I'm here located and go all over North Carolina, but I've worked as far as Florida, New
Wow.
Jersey, New York,
Wow.
so I can help families even there because I have national resources that are located all over the states. Yeah.
Wonderful. So getting back to that question, how do you get started with a conversation?
A free
Call
consultation, yeah.
Alex
Yeah, free consultation, and just call and we can find out,
or
in
call
that
me and I'll
consultation.
bring in Alex.
Absolutely. Yeah,
It's about connecting people.
that's right.
And you have a rich Rolodex, which for those of you who are millennials or younger, you don't know what a Rolodex is. We understand this. Okay. It's
They
a
don't know what
contact list.
411 is either, so
I know for, oh my gosh, we age ourselves. Oh Lordy.
that's okay.
All right. So how would somebody get a hold of you, Alex?
So the best place to start for resources is my website at zenfulaging.com, because it really tells you more about me. It tells you about what those three packages are underneath
Mhm.
my services.
Excellent.
So that's really the best way to get started.
Okay, zenfulaging.com.
Yeah.
Okay. And for those of you listening, it's at the tail end of this podcast. and her full contact information. So I encourage you to reach out. Again, this is something that we don't like to think about, but really it's no time like the present to plan for the inevitable. We all need to be doing that. And no better resource than this lady right here, Alex Parish.
Yeah.
So reach out to her, schedule an appointment, or just have a conversation. It starts right there. It's as simple
Yep.
as that. Alex, thank you for your time,
Thank
and
you.
look forward to working with you in the future.
Sounds great. Thank you so much for having me.
You take care. Thank you for tuning in to the Carolina Senior Talk podcast. We hope you found today's episode both informative and helpful. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. If you enjoyed today's show, please leave us a review and share it with those who might benefit from our advice. If you or anyone you know is looking to buy, sell, or relocate to the Carolinas, or you simply want to know how much equity you have in your home, be sure to contact me at www.carolinaseniortalk.com. Until next time, we wish you the best on your senior living journey in the Carolinas. Take care. Thank you for listening once again, and talk to you soon.